Hi, everyone. I'm Karen MacNeil, author of the Wine Bible and editor of the digital newsletter Wine Speed. And this is Somms Unfiltered, off the floor and on the record, being brought to you by me and Somm Journal. Thank you for joining us today. We are talking with one of my favorite sommeliers today, Jodi Bronchtein. In 2021, Jodi joined the Audey team, Restaurant Audey in Nashville, as the wine director, where she works with the famous Southern chef and restaurateur, Sean Brock. She has a bachelor's degree in humanities and social sciences from the University of Virginia, is a WSET level 3, who's going for her diploma this year, I understand, and has just recently sat for the master's theory exam, part of the Court of Master Sommelier certification. So, Jodi, it is so good to see you and talk with you.
It's so good to see you.
I want to start with, I've had the lucky opportunity, I guess, to say that I've sat in restaurants where you were the sommelier and I got to be doted on by you, and I know your incredible energy. I'm wondering, though, what inspired you originally to be a sommelier?
It was working with Sean. So there was a component where I'd always done very well in wine sales because I like to sell things and I love the restaurant floor. And it was to the point where the food was so thoughtful and complicated that I realized that I could not do the food a disservice by not knowing how wine paired with food. It was irresponsible at that point in my journey with restaurants to not really dial it in and figure it out and try to be really good at it.
How tightly, I guess, do you want to pair wine and food? Are you a person who's like, drink what you want and eat what you want? Or are you, you really can go for an extraordinary marriage if you do this exactly right?
So I think I am both. I started off, when you're a young somm, you're like, no, you can't have Napa Cab with the oysters. You're not allowed. How about this? And it doesn't help with the image of sommeliers being bossy and pretentious and mean Siamese cats, right? So instead, what I've learned how to do is I'm very lucky to work at a restaurant where we have wine pairings. And we change them every single day. We change 6 wines every day to go with the 6 courses. And it's my favorite thing in the world because that's where I can do the marriage of wine and food. And if people want to go that route, they have that opportunity. And it's very well done, in my opinion, because I've now worked with Sean this will be 7 years between the 2 venues, both McCrady's in Charleston and here. And I also let people do what they want. So if someone says to me, I'd really just want Sagrantino with the shellfish today. I let them do it. And then what I will do is casually, in a way that lets people live their lives and have their own feelings and come to their own conclusions, pour them something that I like with it and go, hey, just so you know, this is my current favorite pairing. It's coming from what we have for the pairings tonight. And I just wanted to see what you thought. And then I leave them alone. And if you can create somebody that loves Chablis that way, or that has a second opinion about a Halbtrocken Riesling as an amazing thing with spicy food, then I've done my job. And if they get to that conclusion on their own, which is the way I like to come to conclusions, I want people to give me the information and give me the freedom to feel how I want to feel and let me make a decision. And if you're doing your thing correctly, they'll go, wow, you know what? That Vermentino was actually really great with that, as opposed to something different. So a little bit of both.
It's an interesting question, isn't it? Because it's not solely, your job as a sommelier is not solely food and wine pairing, but also, there's so much hospitality to it. There's so much caring that's an important part of the role. Let me ask you why you think wine is intimidating to begin with.
Wine is intimidating because it has an association with a class and a standard that most people are not comfortable being involved in, especially if you weren't raised with wine. So when somebody hands you a wine list, they're giving you, they're saying, you are the person right now that is in charge of the mood of the table, the financial feasibility of this meal, whether it's going to be comfortable or uncomfortable. And then also you're the taste arbiter now. Good luck with that. So it's intimidating because it's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
And I think that's what wine has become. And then since those times, since the 80s and 90s and moving forward, now it's gone the opposite way. And it's kind of like, do what you want. And I feel like the generation that is coming up is way more fun with it. You know, if anything, they're like, they boo-hoo the classics and they want to do something totally insane and crazy and fun and interesting. And they want it to be exciting. And I think there's room for both. You know, the list that we have is primarily small producers, organic, biodynamic, but with the caveat that the classics are important and they're classics for a reason. And when Sean and I were going over what we wanted for the program, that was important to me. I was coming from Napa, and coming from the East Coast to Napa, there's a vision of the classics of being like the person you dated in high school. Like, it's fine, I started there, but we've moved on. But that's not the case, you know, especially when someone goes, oh my gosh, you dated so-and-so. And you're like, yeah, it is from Howell Mountain. Absolutely. So like, when you know those things, they're important. When someone gives you the wine list, when you are responsible for wine, you're literally kind of listing like your education, your class, what's important to you. And it shouldn't be, there's nothing else that does that.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because when you are on the floor of a restaurant, of course, some percentage of people in the room are intimidated. And a smaller percentage, but still, these people exist, are trying to show off, right? And, right.
Yes.
So, I mean, how do you handle people who sort of know it all about wine and really kind of want to show off in front of you?
The same way that I handle somebody that wants a Sagrantino with shellfish, I let them talk because they want to talk.
Mhm.
And I let them talk. And then usually what I'll do is the same type of thing. I'll pour then the Delinquent Wine Company Tough Nut Pet Nut, which is Bianco de Alessano from Riverland, Australia. And I'll go, what do you think of this? And they'll go, what is it? Is this a cider? Is it a wine? Is it a Pilsner? And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly my thought. It kind of does all three. It's a pet nut from Australia. I just wanted you to try it. And then I leave. And we, you know, it's the Montessori way of wine. You put something in somebody's hand and let them play with it and touch it and smell it and love it or hate it, and then leave them alone.
Perfect. I think I've seen that technique of yours in action. Jodi, before we taste, tell us something about you that would surprise most people to know.
I did not drink wine until I was 38. I didn't drink it at all.
Wow.
I didn't touch it. I didn't have a toast at midnight on New Year's Eve. I just didn't.
Well, let's taste some wine since we're talking about wine, and we're going to, I thought it would be fun to give you a Vermentino to taste. This is by Mesa, and it's the Junco, a little hard to say, well, actually easy to say, the Junco Vermentino from Sardinia, one of my favorite Italian islands. I think I was there for the first time in the 1970s. It is just such a beautiful windswept island right in the Mediterranean. Let's taste it together. I want to hear what you think.
All right. So I deliberately did no research on this and opened it right before we sat down so that I wouldn't do the thing where I over-researched and sounded like had the right answers. I wanted to just do it like you're supposed to. Just smell it and taste it. This on the nose is way more floral than I expected it to be. It smells like, in a good way, like the pollen of yellow flowers. It also has this very, very subtle, but it's prominent. It's not subtle for no reason. Like, this isn't an exam. What I'm noticing on it, that's a better way to say it, is a little like Riesling petrol thing. There's a tiny bit here on the nose that is surprising, but It also smells herbaceous. It smells like green things, like fresh thyme, basil from the farmer's market that's like rubbing against your bag as you walk into the house. It literally smells green, and it's probably why I wore green. Maybe it's why you wore green too. Vermentino is green to me in my head.
Yeah. Well, you know, that idea, that wonderful sense of wild resinous herbs is such a beautiful sense in wine to go with food, because obviously it's the equivalent of sprinkling maybe a few more herbs on a given dish. And when is that not a welcome idea? I also get from Junco here, which I just call it Mesa because that's what's on the label, but the entire winery's name is Cantina Mesa. But I also get a saltiness that I just love in wine. Of course, there is no actual salt, Na, in wine, but when wine has that slightly saline character, man, it just picks up and amplifies the dishes around it.
Agree. That's why I wore these earrings, because this is what salt looks like when it is like drying on a rock. I literally was like, Vermentino to me is silver and green in my head.
Yeah. You know, it's always surprising to me that Italian white grapes like Vermentino are not better known.
I entirely agree. And for the food that we do for the pairings, I literally, everybody knows this, the go-to for the menu at any of Sean's restaurants is always these crispy, I call them salty Italian whites. That's what I call them. Crispy, salty deliciousness, like Sardinia, anything from, I also like the richer ones, Vermentino, and even like, there's a lot of Trebbiano that is overperforming right now that has usually been a snooze in the past. I also
Greco like and Fiano. And,
exactly. Right? And even Arnaise, like all of these are my go-tos in my personal life as well. It's like the author that no matter what they put out, you don't wait, you're allowed to buy that. That's how I feel about salty Italian whites. I love Fiano. I love Arnaise. I love Vermentino. Anything that's from an island. Is it from Etna? Yes, all of it. I want every bit of it. And it's to the point where every day on the tasting menu, I have to take Italy away, because I'm like, okay, so today we've done Australia, France, Spain, Italy. And I have to rein it back. But I love them, and they're beautiful with Sean's food. They're beautiful with everything, but they are my favorite. And I'm just going to be clear about it. That is the category I spend the most money on. It is the category that I buy the most for the restaurant, for sure.
Wow. I am just getting I feel like, you know, that point when you're a kid and you can't really swim very well yet. You're in the ocean and a big ocean wave kind of hits you, and all of your taste buds, your nose, your mouth is just full of this sense of freshness and beautiful oceanic air and water. It's fantastic.
It's delicious. Let's talk about the fact that it's the vintage. Do you want to talk about the vintage on it?
Yeah, let's see. This is a 2020 that we are tasting. Yep. I prefer these wines very much in the current year that they're released. I don't think this is a wine I mean, I suppose you could age it. It has enough acidity probably to age, but that, I don't know. The dramatic freshness is something that I wouldn't want to miss. What about you?
Yeah, no, me too. It's, when you said the salty ocean wave, you're exactly right. But it also is like, and this is not pejorative. It's got such citrus mixed in with that. It's like salty lemonade with herbs in it. I don't know how else to put it. It really is lovely. It is refreshing. And I think that's a thing, that is an adjective that people miss when they're doing food pairings. And that's what your palate wants. Your palate wants to be refreshed. And so, you know, a lot of times at the table, especially for someone that's nervous about wine, you don't want to use the word acidity. You want to use lifted, you want to use fresh, you want to use bright. And this is all of those things. The yellow pollen and salinity on the nose are actually very like soft and fun. And then on the palate, they are snappy. It's a snappy wine.
That kind of snappiness gives wine a sense of energy.
Yes.
a sense that it's alive. And I think that goes right back to what you were saying about what you want a wine to do for you. You want it to be enlivening and galvanizing, even occasionally inspiring.
Oh, hopefully it's inspiring. This type of thing on your palate is still going. The acidity is still rising. It's getting saltier, actually. And how much fun would that be for a dish that is bright already? Or maybe there's a ton of citrus and not a lot of things. What about with a cabbage dish where you're already getting these like cruciferous vegetables tend to have a little bit of a heaviness to them. We're doing a cabbage sauce right now and a sous vide, and wines like this will literally lift it directly up and make it fun. It'll lift that heaviness.
Jody, I have to say, I can't wait to come and be sitting and in your control yet again. I don't often get to Nashville, but I might have to just come to Audrey to see you. It's so great talking with you. Thanks everyone for joining us. Jodi Bronchtein, thank you so much. It's been just a pleasure to talk with you and hear about Audrey Restaurant. Fun to taste the Cantina Mesa Vermentino with you. That was really delicious. And I can't wait to see you again, my friend.
Me too. Thanks so much.
I'm Karen MacNeil. Thanks for watching. This is Somms Unfiltered, off the floor and on the record.